So what do you think? Do you give Dybala the number 10 after this performance? If he signs a new deal, Dybala pledges his future to the club, 3 more years, 4 more years, whatever it is. You got to give him the number 10. Look at today's performance. The first goal is clutch, as always. So good from calcio di rigore, from the area. Second goal, guys, give me a break. It's so impressive from Dybala. It's such an incredible hit. I'm left stupefied, and I'm left just loving this player and everything about him, because what he brings to this side is just something magical. Is something that really hasn't been seen in this team for since who? Since who? And I understand, look, he plays 60% of the matches, 70, 75%, 80% sometimes. However, this is one of the most talented players in the world, let's be honest. And if Roma has the ability to have him for that 60%, if it goes that low, or if it's, let's say, 50%, as Dybala gets older and his ligaments, they tire out, and his muscles, as people do. I'm 33, and yes, it happens. You keep him. You have him play because he's one of the most talented players that I've ever seen wear red and yellow, all besides Francesco Totti. So I think that when it comes to the future, yes, Roma have a replacement. They have that depth. They have somebody who can learn from Dybala in Tommaso Baldanzi. However, this is a once-in-a-generation player. This is a guy who makes me smile when I watch football. He makes me think of the classic number 10s and how talented they were, aside from Francesco, ADP, Zidane, players of the highest echelon. When they touch the ball, it inspires you. And more than that, it's beauty, and it's a love of the game, to be honest. I'm Wayne, guy. Guys, we're going over this. This is Roma-Torino, of course, 3 goals, and Torino does score at the very end, where it looks like, it looks a little bit scary, like Bellanova. What a terrific performance, like, from him, that he was going to do it all on his own with Zapata, his partner in crime there. Very, very scary. But Matt's here. He says, Dybala is my dad. What do I think of Roma's play overall today? Look, let's not beat around the bush. There were some issues, especially in the center of the pitch. I thought the area between where you would think a low block should be, or a mid block, rather, I think De Rossi prefers to play with a mid to high block, that was barren. It was really empty. Whether it was Cristante or any of the center backs starting to occupy that space, I think this is a problem area for De Rossi going forward. But you know what? We can throw on the Roma win banner, and I'm pretty happy about that. I guess, as well as my old branding. Let's see if even my background works. I would be very impressed if we could share. Guys, let's look at everything. We've got the press conference. We've got the starting lineup. So what do we get into here? Let's look. Sorry, I'm just going through a moment. I was looking at my screensaver, making sure that nothing was on. Everyone hears me correct. We're going. What are we doing? Okay, present, share screen, and we've got it right here. I also want to take a look at the standings, because to be honest with you, before coming on air, I didn't take a look at that, so I don't know what that situation's like. Shots on target, actually double what Roma has here for Torino, with 6 shots in total. They had 14. This is uncommon. So for the record, Torino prior to this match, had the 3rd best defense in Serie A, allowing just 22 goals throughout the entire season. What is it? Match day 26, match day 27. So they were averaging 0.9 goals allowed. And here we see Roma trounce that. 3 goals past a team that allows 0.9. Significant. Of course, why does it happen? Because Roma have an extraordinary, out-of-control player. Passes, Roma with a bunch more. I don't take too much from passes, because they could be lateral, they could be vertical, they could be backwards. And it doesn't really matter. And I learned that when Roma were managed by Luis Enrique, and they looked awful. 6th spot. So they make up 2 points in Atalanta, who still have a game in hand, though. That's the unfortunate situation there. So they tie Milan yesterday, which was Sunday, and those two went to a 1-1 draw. Bologna still up there, though. I mean, you look at their last 5, all wins. It's incredible what Motta's doing with this team. I don't even want to use that lame excuse of like, oh, well, they're not in Europe. no. This is Bologna. Like they're so far exceeding expectations. At the very top, I was speaking to like my closest friend today before we came on air, and we were talking how he's an Inter fan. He's like, that match against Roma was the best one all season. It's the only time that I ever saw, probably statistically, that they were behind. So I think Inter like hasn't even been scored on since that Roma game, and prior to that in the year 2024. Significant stuff there. Let me take a look at the screen, make sure. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller. There we go, and change my background. Where's my background? It's not showing up. All right, whatever. Maybe it's the overlay. No, that doesn't work. Whatever. It's not important. You get the idea. But let's look at the lineups from today. Big surprises. De Rossi goes to a 3-5-2 outside of his 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3. And look at that back line. Unusual, right? Who is that? Chris Smalling and Evan Ndika. It's nice to have Ndika back. Yes, very much so. After AFCON, he's going to really shine on De Rossi. We know that. But really, having Chris Smalling back was such a pleasure today. Seeing him in that starting lineup just made me so much happier, guys. And I think he showed it. He really didn't seem like he missed a beat from the very start. He just looked up for it, motivated, getting forward, making tackles, surging forward. And he seemed happy to play the De Rossi ball, if we want to call it that. I think it's a little outplayed at this point. Everything's, Xabi Alonso ball. And what did I hear on the Tifo podcast? Chabi Pool. I was like, bro, we got to stop with these nicknames. But right to left there in the 3-5-2 in the midfield, Christensen as the wingback, Cristante, Paredes, Pellegrini, and then Angelino out on the left wing there, number 69. Dybala with Azmoun up top. Shout out to Azmoun because I saw him getting criticized for his first touch on social media, but the one thing that he did is that surging run, because that's not something that Roma have in their arsenal. If we look across that front line, those players are not sprinters. They're not guys who are going to drag defenders out, press them. But I think he should have shot that goal, that pass that he laid off for Christensen. I think he should have been a bit more greedy, but we wouldn't be saying it was greedy if Christensen converted it, right? He just happened to be the guy in the right place at the right time. Christensen and Azmoun did play the smart ball. I think he had the angle. I guess his rationale was just, I have a much better, a higher percentage of this going to the back of the net if I pass it across the face of goal to Christensen, who was wide open. Looking at Torino's team, Vlasic, very talented Serbian player there. What is he? Yeah, I was going to say 27, 26-year-old Croatian, sorry. Croatian, yeah. Lazzaro on the left, Genetis and Samuel Ricci, who had his goal today, and Bellanova, who caused all types of problems, creating the first goal for Torino, and that was his assist after he did just very well. He was everywhere today. Massina, who's back in Serie A, I forget where he went for a while, but he used to play for Bologna or Genoa. It's one of those. Lovato, who was, I think, from the Atalanta youth system, Lovato there, and Gigi out on the right center back position with Milinkovic-Savic, who tied for second most clean sheets in Serie A heading into this one. And he has 12 clean sheets so far. And today was pretty much the opposite of how he would have wanted. The captain, I'm assuming he's still the captain, Ricardo Rodriguez out there. Crazy. What team was it that he became really popular on? Was it Parma? I got to look up Ricardo. No, it was Wolfsburg. It wasn't Serie A. He was Wolfsburg, where that's like he really shined on the scene. Carol Linetti, who I was wrong about. I thought Linetti was going to become one of the best center mids in the league. Like, I thought like this young Polish center mid, when he was at Sampdoria, I thought he was going to be a really good player. He ended up, I think, just being okay. Okereke, from his time at Venezia, he's still in Serie A. Does he deserve it? I don't know. He's all right. But on the bench, Roma put in a few players that we know and love. Bove, who I really would like to see as a starter, if I'm honest with you. Lukaku, Spinazzola, Sanchez back from the dead, and Dean Huijsen, who comes on. Okay, let's go back to the comments for this one, guys. And I should have probably made that a little bit bigger for you like that, but that's okay. Keep the comments coming in. I think this is going to be a shorter stream today. We got some stuff going on at home, but we're trying to find a home. That's what we're doing. Speaking of home, so Ben is here. Hi, Ben. He says, as another American who lived in Rome for 9 months, I'd be curious to know if you do a video on your life in Rome. So here's where I have to break hearts. I'm not from Rome. My background's not from Rome. My background is Southern Italian. I lived, yes, for a short time, for a semester abroad in Florence. So unfortunately, I'm probably more Florentine than Roman at this point. But I am doing my best to learn the city. So a couple years ago, we went out with my buddy who lives in Rome, and he gave us a guide of like all the local hotspots. So all my friends, they are in Florence. So if you take a vacation to Florence, I could really help you there. I know a few good restaurants in Rome. I know the major sites, and really, I'm more of like, if you need me to plan your vacation in Tuscany, I'd be more than happy for you. But got some really good friends there. Some run bike tours, some own cafes, some own restaurants. Joe's here, said, Wayne, would you bet your house on Roma finishing top 5? My house? Ooh, I don't know if my wife would be happy with that, but I would definitely, that's where I would put my weight for sure. I think Roma do finish top 5. I think they're probably tied for the 4th best team in the league. And I guess we could get rid of that for a second. Yeah, 4th best team in the league with Atalanta. I think Milan might have a step over Roma at this point, but I see that gap starting to come here. And I think that eventually Roma is going to surpass Milan as far as quality of play. And maybe they have right now, to be honest with you. Maybe all they needed was De Rossi to get this team out of their shell and playing better, because Pioli's plays. I know they have a decent record lately, but I don't really rate Pioli as a coach. I don't see it there. I never thought he was that great, but yeah. No, but Ben, it's nice having you. Nice seeing you today. What else are we looking at, guys? I think we're going to jump into the press conference. Keep the comments coming in. We're going to go for about 10 more minutes. And what do we got else? I'm just checking Twitter real quick. Anything? Okay. Yeah, I see press. Okay, I'm just looking at a translation. I'm going to pull up the translation right now of the press conference, which is on Twitter. Share this tab instead. And there we go. If you would rather me keep it like this or like that, let me know your opinion. Because if you're watching this on your phone or a desktop, I'm going to imagine most people watch this on their phone. I would like to know what looks better for you. So that's between this and that. Yeah, this is a cinema layout versus this one, which is like I don't know what you want to call it, but whatever. But I'm gonna answer Joe's before we hit the press conference here. He says, I don't want to see the 3-5-2 unless Roma have proper fullbacks and Cristante on the bench. I kind of agree. I don't want to say I want to see Cristante on the bench. He was culpable for some pretty glaring errors today. But, it's very difficult for me to go and say I don't want to see Cristante play. But I think I have to make this as diplomatic as possible. I think Cristante is a really good guy to have in your team. I don't know if Cristante should be a starter over Bove in a 3-5-2 in particular. I think in the 4-2-3-1, Cristante has excelled at this point. But today, a couple of hospital balls, as we call them, and that's no bueno. I think De Rossi's Roma beats Jose's. I think that De Rossi has the technical, or I should say the tactical knowledge to surpass the low block. I think that you look at what happened today. This was a Roma at 75 to 80% due to fitness, and they were able to get around Torino. I actually want to look at the XG on that. Who would be good for that? Roma Torino from FotMob. Let's see what that statistic looked like, because I want to see if Roma actually had more than I'm going to imagine the XG today was 1.4. I'm going 1.4. Let me share this tab instead, and we can look together. So, did she? Oh, my daughter's. She's going to have her diaper changed. Anyway, XG. Oh, it was close. 1.36. I said 1.4. You saw it. Yes. guess I get bonus points in my own mind for that. But you look at that Torino map, and it's frightening, guys. Look at how close Sanabria was there. Ricci and Messina even gets in on the action. Wow, Thought Mob's pretty good. I kind of like this detailed shot map. When I worked with CBS, I had Opta, and they use like an engine that's fueled by Opta. It was amazing, the stuff that you could find. But commentators, they have stuff that's one step further, which is called Y Scout, WY Scout, one word. And I believe you could pay for it. So if like you're scouting a player, let's say I want to watch Samuel Ricci, I want him to be my defensive mid. I could watch every single touch that player took through these clips, these automated clips. It's great stuff. And yeah, it was amazing to see Smalling out there. But anyway, guys, we have, about 10 more minutes. So we're going to jump into that press conference right now. Let me get back to Twitter real quick. I have like 10 tabs open. Okay. The 352. Oh, by the way, he didn't want to answer about the spy that was hiding in the bushes. What a creep from Torino. I think we know about that story by now. Did the 3-5 come to you after this news of being spied on? He says, I came up with the idea before it. If they saw it, they knew it. I have to make chances before the match, then see if they were right. He says, I wanted Smalling to play at all costs because I saw him doing well. Torino, very physical, gives me more peace of mind to put him between two who covered his flank. So he was like, for this way of playing, I needed Smalling. That's what he's saying. He says it was conservative and defensive choice. I imagine we could have suffered because Torino has fitness and a pressing ability. By the way, some of these are not going to translate the way that you might see on like Football Italia or Roma Press, other big Roma news sites, because I clean a lot of them up myself with my own translation, like what I think most fits over Google Translate. He says, starting more cautiously after the efforts in the cup could have kept the match more lively to resolve it in the second half. And he says, we started to come into the match. The four-man defense, is it possible with Mancini on the right? And he says, everything's possible. This Roma, though, is built for a three-man D, convenient for a coach who knows how to use it, which I think he's like, I don't really like it, but we have too many right backs for that role, but anything can happen. The team lends itself. And I said, I don't really know how to say like si presta. I wasn't familiar with that translation, which I just got confirmation is like the best way to translate it. He says, I like the performances of the central players, the center backs. He says, they play very strong man-to-man. In the first half, we lacked depth. We would have suffered even if we played with four or with other players. True. Even in the second half, Dybala's goal dropped in base. So he's saying like they fell off. They kind of fell out of steam to a point. However, in the last 10 minutes, we know that to be not entirely true with that goal by Samuel Ricci. They got right back into it. What did you say at halftime? Well, he was upset, and he said it was a great defeat to immediately concede a draw. It would have made many teams falter, not this one. I said 2 to 3 things, but you can say everything if you don't have those players with personality. Zapata scored a good goal. We defended well. He hit the corner. Sometimes the opponents are good. So you do have to give credit to this Torino. I think they're built pretty good. If they didn't get Zapata, they'd be in 15th, 16th place. But with him, a guy who scored a boatload of goals over the past 4 years, last season, not so much. But you put him against any center back, he's super smart and how to play off the shoulder. He's big and strong. He can rise above most center backs, and he gets a goal. It happens. Like, it's fair. Yes. Sanchez, he says it wasn't easy for him to come on after such a long time. He says he's happy with him. He's training well. He's doing good with the group. He bursted onto the pitch, and he plays those who he thinks that are going to make him win, and he was up for the task. I like this question. 3 more here. He says, you played for many years with a 10 that solved matches. Does the playing quality of the champion matter more than the organization? This one, I was thinking to myself, I was like, that's a hard question. He says the champion's play comes out perhaps because the team is organized. I was thinking this. I was like, well, you know what? Champions can only exude how good they are when there's like a stable core behind them. Otherwise, it becomes too hard. Think of like you really don't want a big fish in a small pond. But if everyone works towards that really big fish and the quality levels out, then the big fish can become even bigger. And I think that's probably a terrible way to put this, but I'll let De Rossi answer. And he says the champions play comes out because the team is organized. Dybala was perhaps able to get the ball 10 times thanks to an organized team. Or you have Zapata and you give him a lot of balls. Then it's important if the coach realizes that the players there are more important than him, you have to train them well, make them play in the most congenial, like what fits them most positions, manage the group well. Then the quality of the players is very important. On the first half, he says there was a lack of play in our back half, but we lacked a deep attack in the first half. Man to man, when they come after your backside, is difficult. You have to go behind them, like on Christensen's post. We had an extra man in defense. He means when he hit the post, not like Christensen's where he was guarding. He says we had an extra man in defense at the beginning. Then I changed things up. And I like this about De Rossi is that he continues to innovate. He says, then we suffered a bit. We lost too many balls. The quality of the player makes you win and lose matches or championships. It's the most important thing. But if it wasn't important, everything else wouldn't we see. But if it wasn't important, everything else wouldn't we would see Bologna fourth. I messed this up. Who have good players, or Chievo from years ago. So he's saying like it's not just players, it's also the organization. Last question here, guys. Please write in some comments. If you're new here, like Ben, hit that subscribe button. Help the channel grow. Thank you. A reporter says you're calmer in the second part of the match. Are you starting to trust? He says the reporter just says trust, and I took that as trust the team. He says I have a lot of trust. Sometimes I'm more nervous. I put on my coat because I wasn't feeling well after Inter. You know why? Because he was out there in the pouring rain. Even the commentator said he was going to feel that. He says sometimes you have to spit out a bit of healthy joy. Everything here is important to me. On Mondays at 6 p.m., we had 60,000 fans and a sold-out game. We're followed as when we were in second in the standing years ago. We must still respect this trend that has been there for a few years. It means that there is a great love and we must not be outdone. I'm calm because we have strong players. They are good guys, serious. They give a performance. Then every match can be won or lost. I was tense at the first one. As I go on, it seems like something I've been doing for a long time. And there, I cropped this out of the gallery. Sorry, Getty Images. But yeah, the people have to see the good stuff. Let's stop right there for that. So last comment coming in here. Keep them coming in, guys. Joe says he wants to see Baldanzi, but understands why he kept Dybala on pure class today. I think the last shout goes to the MVP undoubtedly today is, of course, the hat-trick hero, Paulo Dybala, who puts on a real pearl. Guys, I need your advice. I would like to know in the comments what you would like to see more of on this channel, who you would like to see on, if you want the quality to go up a bit, if you want different angles and you want this to look fancy, if you don't want me to wear Ajax kits that I get for 65% off, you can also let me know that too. Thanks for joining me on a Monday night, guys. Forza Roma, sempre, as always. Ciao.